There's a moment that doesn't get talked about enough. It's not loud. It doesn't come with some big life event or dramatic ending. It's quiet. It's when you start sitting in conversation that used to feel normal, and suddenly they don't. You're there, listening, nodding, responding, but something in you feels slightly out of place, like you're present, but not really there. And at first, you don't question it. You tell yourself you're just tired or distracted, or maybe just overthinking things, but it keeps happening. The same conversations, the same jokes, the same patterns. And slowly you start realizing it's not them that changed, it's you. And that realization is uncomfortable, because now you're left with something you can't ignore. You don't quite fit where you used to, but you're not fully anywhere else yet either, so you're in between, still showing up, but not feeling connected, still surrounded by people, but feeling alone in a way you can't explain. And that kind of loneliness hits differently. Not because you have no one around you, but because the version of you that used to belong there doesn't exist in the same way anymore. Most people don't sit with that feeling for long. They try to fix it. They adjust themselves just enough to feel comfortable again. They go back into old rhythms, laugh at things they don't find funny anymore, agree with things they don't fully believe, not in a fake way, just enough to make things feel normal again. Because being slightly disconnected is easier than being fully alone. But here's the part that doesn't get said clearly. Every time you do that, you move a little further away from yourself. Not in a dramatic way, just enough to keep things familiar, just enough to avoid that uncomfortable space where you don't quite belong anywhere. And over time, that becomes your default. You learn how to stay in environments that don't challenge you. You learn how to keep parts of yourself quiet. You learn how to exist in a version of your life that feels acceptable, but not true. And the problem with that isn't immediate. Nothing breaks. Your life still functions. Your relationships still exist. Everything looks fine from the outside. But internally, something feels off. Like you're capable of more, but you're not moving toward it. Like you're growing, but staying in the same place at the same time. And that tension doesn't go away. It just sits there. At some point, you start noticing it more clearly. In the silence after conversations. In the moments when you're alone and finally honest with yourself. You start asking questions you didn't ask before. Why do I feel like this? Why doesn't this feel right anymore? Why do I feel more like myself when I'm alone than when I'm around people? And that last question is the one that changes everything. Because it forces you to see something you've been avoiding. That maybe the loneliness you're afraid of is actually where you feel the most like yourself. And that's confusing at first. Because you've always been taught that being alone is something to fix, something to escape, something that means something is missing. But what if it doesn't? What if that space is the only place where you're not adjusting? Where you're not filtering what you say? Where you're not shrinking parts of yourself to fit? Where you're just you? And once you feel that clearly, it becomes harder to go back. Not because you suddenly hate people, not because you think you're better than anyone, but because you've experienced what it feels like to be fully aligned with yourself. And anything less than that starts to feel heavy. This is where most people make a decision without realizing it. They either go back to what's comfortable, or they allow themselves to step into something unfamiliar. And that unfamiliar space looks like loneliness from the outside. Less invitations, less constant conversation, less noise, more time alone, more distance, more quiet. And if you don't understand what's happening, it can feel like you're losing something. But you're not. You're creating space. Space to think without interruption. Space to see yourself more clearly. Space to rebuild parts of your life that were shaped by other people's expectations. And that space is uncomfortable. Because now there's nothing to distract you. No constant validation. No easy sense of belonging. Just you and everything you've been avoiding. But that's also where something starts to shift. Slowly, you begin to trust your own thoughts again. You start making decisions that actually reflect what you want, not what's expected. You notice that you're less reactive, more intentional. You stop explaining yourself as much. You stop needing everyone to understand you. And without forcing it, you start becoming someone different. Not louder, not more impressive, just more solid, more certain, more comfortable being exactly who you are, even if it doesn't match what people expect from you. And here's the part that people struggle with the most. Not everyone is going to come with you into that version of your life. Not because something went wrong, but because not everything is meant to grow in the same direction. Some connections were built on who you used to be. And when that changes, those connections naturally shift too. That doesn't make them bad. It just means they've reached their limit. And holding on to them out of comfort only keeps you from fully stepping into what's next. So the question becomes simple. Not easy, but simple. Do you stay where you feel comfortable, or do you allow yourself to step into a space that feels unfamiliar, quiet, and honest? Because the life you want, the one that actually reflects who you are becoming, will ask something from you. It will ask you to let go of what no longer fits. It will ask you to sit with yourself without distraction. It will ask you to be alone for a while. Not as a punishment, but as a process. And if you can understand that, if you can stop seeing that space as something negative, it stops feeling like loneliness and starts feeling like direction. Not everyone is meant to come with you, and that's not something to be afraid of. That's something to understand. Because sometimes the most powerful move you can make is choosing to walk alone for a while, so you don't spend your life walking in the wrong direction.